The chill autumn wind swept across the vast Texas plains that crisp October night in 1892. Eleanor Caldwell stood on the weathered porch of her Bar X ranch, gazing at the endless horizon where the moon hung low like a silver dollar. At 58, she'd spent 4 lonely years running the spread alone since her husband, Ben, had passed from a brutal fever. The ranch taught her hard lessons. Strangers in the dark rarely meant good news. Her fingers gripped the Winchester rifle by her side as the distant rumble of hooves shattered the quiet. Out of the shadows rode a figure straight from a dime novel tall, rugged, his Stetson casting deep shadows over piercing blue eyes. His horse was foaming at the mouth, flanks slick with sweat, and a dark stain bloomed on his right thigh where a slug had torn through denim. "Ma'am," he rasped, voice like gravel under boots. "Name's Wyatt Harlan. My mount's about spent, and I've got a hole in me that needs tending. I can pay for a barn stall and some bandages just for the night." Eleanor's pulse quickened. She'd sworn off foolish notions after Ben's death, convinced her days of heartache and heat were buried with him. But this stranger's raw edge, that mix of desperation and steel, sparked something dormant in her chest. She should have sent him packing to the nearest town, Amarillo, where outlaws drowned their sins in whiskey. Instead, she lowered the rifle a fraction. "Get down slow," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor inside. "I'll see to that wound, but one wrong move, and you'll be feeding the buzzards." Wyatt swung off his horse with a wince, leaning heavily on the porch rail. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought, maybe mid-30s, with a jaw set like granite and scars peeking from his collar. Eleanor led him inside to the kitchen, where the lantern's glow cast flickering shadows. She boiled water, grabbed linens, and told herself the knot in her gut was just caution. As he shrugged off his shirt, revealing a torso mapped with old knife marks and bullet pocks, she felt a forbidden flush. "What kind of fool rides into the Panhandle bleeding like that?" she asked, pressing a cloth to the gash. "Bad luck and worse company," Wyatt muttered, his breath hitching as she worked. His eyes locked on hers, intense and unyielding. "Chased by ghosts from my past. Didn't plan on imposing." Eleanor bandaged him in tense silence, her hands brushing his warm skin, sending jolts she hadn't felt in years. For years of solitude had armored her heart, but his presence cracked it open. "Barn's out back," she finally said. "One night, then you're gone." He nodded, but as he limped away, Eleanor sat at the table, staring at the bloodied rag. What madness had she let in? The coyotes howled outside, and she wondered if danger always smelled like leather and sweat. Dawn broke with the crack of an axe. Eleanor peered out the window to find Wyatt, shirtless and glistening, chopping firewood like he'd owned the place forever. Her coffee went cold as she watched the play of muscles under his skin. Why had she stopped feeling like a woman? "Figured I'd pull my weight," he said later, accepting the plate of eggs and biscuits she offered. Their eyes met over steaming mugs, and a spark leaped between them, unspoken, electric. They spent the day mending the ranch. Wyatt calmed her skittish stallion with patient whispers, fixed the corral fence with practiced hands. Eleanor caught herself glancing at the way his Levi's clung to his legs, the gentle way he handled her livestock. "You're handy," she admitted as they watched the sun dip low, painting the plains gold. "Lost my own place up north to rustlers in a harsh winter. Been drifting ever since." His tone carried buried pain, mirroring her own loss. That evening, she cooked stew for two, the first shared meal since Ben's grave. They talked of cattle drives, dust storms, and the fleeting beauty of wildflowers after rain. Wyatt's laugh rumbled deep, filling the empty house. "I ought to ride out tomorrow," he said, pouring bourbon. Eleanor's heart stuttered. "Do you have to?" The words escaped, bold and reckless. His hand brushed hers, calluses rough yet tender. "Eleanor," he whispered, her name a caress that melted her defenses. At 58, she knew better than to chase wildfires, but his gaze made her feel timeless, desired. The second night unleashed a ferocious thunderstorm, lightning cracking the sky like gunfire. They stood on the porch, rain pounding the tin roof, air charged with ozone and tension. Texas storms hit like Judgment Day, Wyatt said, his body close enough to feel his heat. Fierce and gone quick like some folks I know. Eleanor turned, her breath catching at the hunger in his eyes. I'm not that woman anymore, Wyatt. I'm past my prime, worn out. He cupped her face gently. You're everything real, Eleanor. Strong, beautiful. You've lived through hell and come out fighting. That's what pulls me in. The kiss ignited like dry tinder, slow at first, then consuming. Wyatt's lips were firm, exploring, awakening fires she'd banked long ago. She clutched his shirt, pulling him inside as thunder roared. They tumbled to the bed, his hands tracing her curves with reverence, whispering praises that shattered her doubts. When he entered her, slow and deep, Eleanor arched, lost in waves of pleasure she'd forgotten existed. But doubt crept in mid-bliss. Was this lust or lunacy? A widow her age with a drifter half her years? Society would brand her a fool, or worse. Afterward, tangled in sheets, she traced his scars. What now? She murmured. I don't know, Wyatt admitted, stroking her silver-streaked hair. Never stuck around before. The storm raged on, mirroring her turmoil, elation clashing with fear of heartbreak. Morning brought riders U.S. Marshals, badges flashing in sun. Eleanor's stomach dropped as they called out, Wyatt Harlan, you're wanted for the Abilene train heist. Wyatt emerged from a barn, hands raised, face calm. I didn't touch that goal, Marshal. My old crew turned on me, tried to stop him. The lead lawman unfolded a warrant, eyes narrowing. Eleanor's mind raced. Outlaw? She'd let a criminal into her bed? Rage boiled had he played her, but his steady gaze held no deceit. The marshal grilled him. Witnesses say you rode with him. Wyatt's voice rang true. They lie to save their skins. Check with the sheriff in Dodge. I surrendered, gave evidence. Tension peaked as the marshals debated, guns drawn. Eleanor stepped forward, heart pounding. He's telling the truth. I've seen the man he is. A heated argument ensued, the marshals skeptical, Wyatt defiant, Eleanor torn between betrayal and belief. Finally, telegrams confirmed. Clear to charges, but a bounty from his ex-partners lingered. Watch your back, the marshal warned before riding off. Dust settled, and Wyatt faced her, regret etched deep. I should have come clean. Eleanor's anger flared. Damn right. You made me question everything. They argued fiercely, she accusing him of using her, him swearing his feelings were real. The confrontation peaked in shouts, her slapping his chest, him pulling her close. I love you, Eleanor. For the first time in years, I want roots. She pulled back, conflicted. Society's whispers echoed. An older woman with a younger man? Scandalous. But his eyes pleaded, and she saw the good beneath the grit. Stay, she said finally, but earn it. No lies, no running. Wyatt's grin broke through like dawn. Deal. That evening, they sat on the porch, his arm around her, as the sun blazed on the horizon crimson. Cattle lowed in the distance, a promise of shared tomorrows. At 58, Eleanor had thought love was for the young and reckless. Now, she knew it bloomed brightest when earned through fire. What do you think? Should Eleanor have trusted Wyatt despite his past, or was she risking too much? Drop your take in the comments below, and let's debate it. Share if age gaps in love are fair game or a recipe for disaster.